Okay, I guess I'm just gonna skip Alicia's today since she's not here. So we'll start off with Instagram. Instagram is one of the most well-known and trending apps today. It was launched on October 6, 2019 by Kevin Systrom and Mike Krager, and since 2012 it has been acquired by Facebook till this day. So what exactly is this app and what is it used for? Instagram is an entirely visual platform that enables users to share images or videos with their audience. Audience refers to your friends, peers, and maybe even strangers. You have the choice to make your account public or private. Public accounts are able to be seen by everyone, while private, you can get to choose who can access your homepage. So some of the benefits of Instagram is it keeps people up with daily lives and insights on daily lives. There are many influencers, which means people who have a relatively large platform that can earn money and influence their followers. For example, paid ads or sponsorships by certain companies. It also provides easy communication and is a great source of marketing strategy. Some huge achievements in Instagram sales include the fourth quarter of 2020, where they generated 6.8 billion US dollars in global revenues and up from an estimated 3.3 billion US dollars in the second quarter of 2019. As for 2021, this current year, it is projected that Instagram will reach 18.6 billion US dollars in just annual ad sales. Since this is such a huge platform, here is currently the most followed person, Cristiano Ronaldo, which I'm sure most have heard of. If not, he is a professional footballer, or some people like to call a soccer player. He has a total of approximately 338 million followers as of September 5th. On the right of the slides, it incorporates the Instagram logos and an idea of what the homepage looks like.
Okay, so the next social media I'm gonna talk about is WeChat. So what is WeChat? WeChat is a Chinese multi-purpose messaging, social media, and mobile payment app developed by Tencent, which is a very popular company in China. And there is a short history about WeChat. WeChat began as a project at Tencent Guangzhou Research and Project Center in October 2010. The original version of the app was created by Alan Zhang and named Weixin by Ma Huateng, CEO of Tencent, and launched in 2011. There are some features for WeChat, which are messaging moment and also WeChat Pay. In terms of the messaging, WeChat allows its users to send words, emojis, pictures one-on-one with contacts. And additionally, it can also do audio calls and video calls, which are two really convenient tools you can use when you want to communicate with your friends or families. And also the moment, which is a place where you can share your personal experiences or something interesting that you want to share with your friends. And also you can share your photos, 50-second videos, music, or web links for your chosen WeChat contacts. Maybe used to make major announcements and showcase their daily life. And also finally, WeChat Pay, which allows you to complete the payment just by scanning a QR code under money. And e-wallet can be connected with your bank account or credit card to make payment digitally.
So I'm going to do Facebook for my social media. So Facebook is a website which allows users who sign up for free profiles to connect with friends, work colleagues, or people they don't know online. It also allows users to share pictures, music, videos, and articles, as well as their own thoughts and opinions with however many people they like. So Facebook is an American multinational technology company based in Menlo Park, California. It was founded in 2004 as the Facebook by 4 roommates and students at Harvard College. So The company acquired Instagram in 2012, then WhatsApp app and Oculus in 2014. It is one of the world's most valuable companies and is considered one of the big five companies in the US information technology. So the company generates substantially all of its revenue by selling advertisements placements to marketers and has more than 2.85 billion monthly active users. And 79% of them are Americans. 79% of Americans use Facebook.
The next app we're going to talk about is TikTok. So, what exactly is TikTok? TikTok is a social media app, and its main function is to share videos. You can make videos that are anywhere from 15 to 60 seconds long, and you post it on the app. When you go on TikTok just to look at videos and not to make them, you're shown videos that other people have made, and TikTok chooses which videos to show you based off your interest. So based off, for example, videos that you've liked or you've seen in the past. So some statistic about TikTok is that 2.6 billion people around the world have TikTok. 1.1 billion people use TikTok every month. A majority of TikTok users are 10 to 19 years old. That's the main demographic. TikTok is used in 154 different countries, and the value of TikTok is around $50 billion. If you look on the right, there's also a photo of which areas or which types of videos are the most popular videos on the platform. Entertainment is number 1, and dancing is number 2.
Okay, so Snapchat is a mobile app founded by Evan Spiegel. It focuses on private person-to-person media. Basically, people can send each other pictures, videos, or chats. And what's unique about Snapchat is that these photos, videos, and chats are automatically deleted after a short period of time. Snapchat has over 100 million users in the United States alone and over 300 million daily users worldwide. So some cool features of Snapchat include stories where people can share to everyone what they have, added to whatever pictures or videos they want. There's also a discover page where you can watch the news or quick videos. And there are also streaks, which count the number of consecutive days you and another person send each other Snapchats. There's also Snap Maps, where you can see the location of other people you have added, and also click on hotspots in which people can post stories for anyone in the world to see. So on the right are is basically what Snapchat looks like if you use it. There's 4 main pages, and you can swipe around. And there's also filters on the bottom where you can put on yourself. On next page.
So House Party, it allows friends to chat online in a group chat. It's the closest app to Zoom, but more friend orientated. It's created by Epic Games, which also created Fortnite. Well, that's their most famous game, which is Fortnite. And you can link both apps together. It's available on iOS and Android. You could play games such as Heads Up and Trivia.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about Twitter. Twitter is a social networking site that allows you to post multiple comments, or in this app, they're called tweets. You're allowed to use 280 characters at the very most for one tweet. Twitter is another option to promote businesses and shop directly through tweets. You must be at least 13 years old to use Twitter, which is around the same age as for Instagram and Gmail and the other social media apps. There are approximately 320 million people that use Twitter every month. With Twitter, many users are able to discover what is happening in the world.
And this is our works cited. Thank you.
Okay, so we are going to continue with history now. So today we will be talking about the High Middle Ages, which is the third lesson in our Medieval Europe series. These are our lesson plans, and check out our YouTube channel for videos of the previous lessons. Here's the brief timeline of Medieval Europe. Today we'll be covering High Middle Ages from 1000 to 1250 AD. We might go a bit after that as well. The first topic is continuing from last week's knights, medieval weapons.
All right, so types of medieval armor. There's a lot of types actually. So we have the gambeson, which is basically a full bottle jacket armor that is usually made of linen or wool. These thick jackets are stuffed with cloth or horsehair and were very cheap to make. And so many peasants, because they were cheap, wore gambesons onto the battlefield. But eventually, people wore gambesons underneath their real armor, which is made of iron or other metals for extra protection. Now, laminar armor is body armor made from small rectangular plates of iron or steel. And these were used in many different places, including China, Japan, Mongolia, and Europe. As an extra little fact, in Japan, they tended to use leather actually, because leather was more common. And in fact, the Qin Dynasty terracotta army, you can see they wear laminar armor. And this was to add extra protection along with other types of armors. Next slide. All right. So as you can see here, laminar armor was used in places such as China and Japan because it was more durable, because it was made from horizontal rows of armor plates. And eventually people began making a combination of not only laminar, but also lamellar armor, so that is more durable and flexible. Chainmail armor is the type that was most common in Europe. It is a type of armor that uses small metal rings all linked together to form a thin mesh. And chainmail was generally pretty good against arrows and also helped to protect from swords, but against weapons such as spears or halberds or poleaxes, it was not as good. However, chainmail was also very expensive, so only a high-ranking noble or knight could afford it. Swords and lances. Swords are historically the most popular weapons in Europe because they are able to deal lots of damage through slashes, jabs, and stabs with a small amount of effort. And they're also a symbol for someone's status. Now, lances are another high-class weapon because the only people that use lances are people on horses, and horses are expensive. And people only use lances when they ride a horse because of its long reach and powerful impact. And it's only designed for really one hit, so it's better used from a longer distance. Spears and maces. So throughout history, spears have been the most common weapon just because they're super easy and cheap to make, and because they can be used against enemy cavalry or horsemen. They can also be thrown, which is nice. And this is in opposition to the mace. The mace is a lot heavier and it's probably smaller than a spear. In fact, it's the end is usually made of stone, iron, or bronze, and its potential to deal a lot of damage is when it's swung. All right, the High Middle Ages. So as you can see here, you can see that Europe and the Mediterranean, they're not very formed in the way that we see the countries nowadays, right? So for example, Spain is cut into like 4 pieces over there. France itself is cut into like 5 or 6, and Germany doesn't even exist at this time. So you can see all of Europe is pretty much fractured after the Roman Empire fell. So conditions in Europe improved during the 1100s as people learned to grow more nutritious food. Health improved and the population grew. Towns also grew, and so trade increased. Europeans tended to develop a Gothic style of art and architecture. Christians built cathedrals of stone with tall towers and stained glass. The recently unburned Notre Dame in Paris is a good example of Gothic of Gothic architecture. And there was also a rebirth of learning, which is also known as the Renaissance, where the first European universities were founded in Bologna. Where's it Bologna? Bologna, Italy, Paris, France, and other cities. And between 1100 and basically 1300, Christian kings and knights from all over Europe participated in a series of crusades in the Middle East for control of places that they considered holy. They fought against the Muslims, especially Saladin in the Third Crusade, and the Ottoman Empire for control of Jerusalem. Next slide. The Crusades. So the Crusades were wars that Christians fought against Muslims for control of Jerusalem, and especially the Levant. The word crusade comes from the Latin word crux, which means cross, and Christian soldiers called crusaders wore a cross as a symbol of Christianity. Now, it's important to note that Jerusalem is the holy city to basically all of the monotheistic religions, from Muslims to Christians to Jews. All of them see Jerusalem as a very important city. However, in 1071, a new Muslim group called the Seljuk Turks took control of Jerusalem and forbade Christian pilgrims from coming in to Jerusalem. And they also attacked the Byzantine Empire, which was Eastern Orthodox Christian. So the Byzantine Empire asked the Pope in Rome for help. And in 1100, the Pope, I think it was Urban II, although I could be wrong, urged Christians to take back Jerusalem. Now, the First Crusade left Europe in August 1096, and they actually did succeed. So they captured Jerusalem on July 15th, 1099. Some of them stayed home. Some of them stayed in the Holy Land, others went home. But it turned out to be a failure because in 1144, the Turks captured one of the Christian states, and the following Second Crusade failed. In 1187, the Muslim leader Saladin conquered Jerusalem in 1187, and they launched the Third Crusade against them. The kings of England, France, and Germany, with special consideration given to Richard the Lionheart, were not able to recapture Jerusalem, but they signed a peace treaty with Saladin, which allowed Christian pilgrims to visit holy places in Jerusalem. In the 1200s, the Fourth Crusade started. Although the Crusaders originally planned to attack the Muslims in Egypt, they instead passed through Venice and so captured Zara, which is a Christian city that competed with Venice for trade. And then they also seized Constantinople, the city they were supposed to protect, and they also looted the entire city. Also, during 1212, two separate groups of children set out for Jerusalem. If there's anything you have to know about historical conflicts involving children, is that they never work. So none of the children's crusades got near Jerusalem, and they all failed. As part of the Fifth Crusade, the French and German crusaders reached Egypt as part of the Fifth Crusade, and the Muslims offered to give up Jerusalem if the crusaders would leave Egypt, and they refused and later were defeated. And Frederick II set out on a Sixth Crusade in 1228. They signed a treaty with the leader of Egypt that gave Christians control of most of Jerusalem. However, in 1244, the Turks took Jerusalem back, and this led to the Seventh Crusade in 1249. Louis IX, King of France, was the leader, and however, he was captured and held before being released. And then he led the Eighth Crusade, and then he also died of plague, and so the crusade failed again. And so by 1291, the Muslims had recaptured the last of the Christian states in the Holy Land.
So now we're going to talk about the medieval medicine. So it was described as the darkest moment in the history of human medicine. So as discussed earlier, the extremely deadly Black Death stormed over the medieval Europe. And to Europe at that time, the causes of the Black Death was unknown. The theory of heavenly punishment, the theory of witches and demons, various explanations of the causes spread in Europe. No matter what were the causes, they couldn't be solved by human beings at that time, and which gave birth to the legendary Doctor of the Black Death, which is shown on the right. and the medieval medicine was so behind, and there had been nearly no progress since the fifth century. Next slide, please. But first, we can see how people developed a disease control thinking. Uh, so, uh, so when we refer to the Black Death, we'll often see the bird beak mask suit. This is in order to reduce the probability of infection. Charles the Lorme, a French doctor in the 16th century, and a royal doctor of Louis XIII, invented the anti-infection doctor suit, which looks like this. And the specific function of this set of equipment is as follows. The large laser hat can prevent the patient from getting too close to the face. At the same time, it is also the identity mark of the doctor at the time. It's also the identity mark of the doctor at that time, similar to today's chef hat. The canvas or leather headgear was inlaid with red glass lenses to prevent the splashing saliva of the patient from spraying on the face. Red glass was considered to be able to isolate evil at that time. The mouth and nose are made of beak, and small holes are opened under the beak to help breathe. Inside the beak is a closed bag containing spices and herbs. Sometimes perfume is also used on the closed bag to separate the poisonous air and reduce the smell. Shawls and robes were made of wax, linen, or canvas, sometimes all made of leather and waxed on it. At that time, wax was considered to be a reliable surface sealing material to protect the body. The inside of the robe is leather pants, which are also waxed. Gloves and shoes are also made of leather. Um, Bandages can be used to fasten wrists and ankles. The stick in his hands is used to examine the patient. The doctor himself will not touch the patient directly. However, according to the folklore, evil spirits carrying plague hide on birds, which will be scared away by the more ferocious beak mask. So actually, we can see the aim of this suit wasn't bad. This was actually a pretty good preliminary form of mask, or the protective clothes, like a prototype of the protective clothes of the doctors today. But because lack of knowledge, it was believed to be something religious or something superstitious instead of something scientific. But after all, this was invented in 16th century. It is far later than the medieval. Although the Black Death happened in the medieval, is always associated with this kind of clothes. So then we'll look at humorism. This is the cornerstone of medieval Western medical. So first, I need to explain this. This is actually a very behind, or we can say it's a stupid and not scientific theory. So don't imitate. So humorism was first raised by the Greek philosopher Hippocrates. It was a system of medicine detailing a supposed makeup and working of the human body. So the theory introduced the concepts of four humors. So in this here, humor means the body fluid. Uh, so the first body fluid is blood. The blood was believed to be produced exclusively by the liver. It was associated with the sanguine nature, like enthusiastic, active, and social. And the second body liquid is yellow bile. Yellow bile was associated with a choleric nature, which includes ambitious, um, decisive, aggressive, and short-tempered. And the third one is black bile. Black bile was associated with the melancholy nature. The word melancholy itself it is actually derived from the Greek for black bile. Um, and depression was attributed to excess or unnatural black bile secreted by the spleen. Cancer was also attributed to an excess of uh, black bile concentrated in the specific area. And the fourth one is phlegm. Phlegm was associated with a phlegmatic nature, thought to be associated with reserved behavior. The phlegm of humorism is far from phlegm as it is defined today. So phlegm, I don't know if I pronounced the correct thing, uh, but this actually means the sticky thing that is spilled from your mouth, from your throat, that makes you hard to speak every time at today, but it is very different at that time. And if we look at the picture on the right, it is actually describing the four body liquids, and it is pretty similar to the Wuxing concept we discussed before, isn't it? So we can continue to the next slide. So according to the Hippocrates humoral theory, practice in medicine is bleeding. So common practices in medicine are bleeding, emesis, urine test, enema. These four moves are almost indispensable means for medieval doctors. The first is bloodletting. Um, it is you can simply understand it as bleeding, but you are bleeding voluntarily. So bloodletting therapy is not notorious. Both the famous Washington and the Newton scientist Galanti died of bloodletting. However, in the Middle Ages, when the medical means were poor, bloodletting became the main means of medical treatment, relying on the theories of Hippocrates and Ptolemy. Um, Bloodletting became very particular in the Middle Ages. So first, the doctor will judge the astrological rising point of the disease and the patient's zodiac. So zodiac means like the patterns of the stars. You can understand it like that. Uh, like the pattern of the stars when you are born, like Germany or Cancer or things like that. And then they will determine where and how much your disease needs to be bled in combination with the position and nature of the planet. Although astrological medicine represents backwardness or behind, its theoretical basis and theoretical difficulty are extreme complex. Um, in the Middle Ages, doctors who can skillfully master astrological medicine can be regarded as leaders. So this is also superstition. Yeah. And then here comes the emetic. Emetic is a method an operation that makes stuff in your stomach flushes out from your um, emetic. It's actually an operation that force you um, to throw out things in your stomach from your mouth. So Hippocrates believed that diseases and toxins in the human body can be excreted through vomiting and defecation. Therefore, a large number of emetics and laxatives have been the mainstream drugs in Europe. Medieval Europeans even took claim to treat the Black Death. Emetics and laxatives led to excessive vomiting, esophageal rupture, and hematemesis. Until the 17th century, emetics and laxatives were still used as a medical means. Since the discovery of antimony in the 8th century, antimony has also become an emetic used in medical treatment. So emetic has multiple meanings. You can refer it to an operation that makes you throw out your stuff in your stomach. You can also refer to the substance that accelerates this process. And antimony is actually a metal element that is kind of poisonous. As a toxic heavy metal, antimony poisoning has killed a large number of treated patients. Then here comes the enema, which is a procedure. A gas or liquid is injected into the rectum. Uh, uh, so it is actually injected from your butt. It is typically to expel the contents from your stomach. So enema therapy, which is way different from enema in our normal understanding. After learning Arabic medicine, Europeans recognize many herbs, but their treatment methods are different from the thinking of normal people. Um, it is hilarious, yeah. And medieval doctors boiled herbs into juice enema, and the most popular enema tool in the Middle Ages contained antimony, which would lead to several dizziness and vomiting. Therefore, when doctors enema in the Middle Ages, they often inject from the butt and spit from above, which can be said to be very disgusting. Louis XIII, the leader of the enema circle, has maintained a record of enema more than 200 times a year, which is terrible. He often doesn't wash his hands before and after meals, but he has also uh, this muse is actually refers to pooping, you know. But he has also developed a large number of enema receipts, like British King Charles II, in enema therapy, overused antimony and lime water enema, exerted too much force and died. So we can see the medieval surgery. The earliest record of human surgical history is in the famous Hammurabi Code, which is a very famous. It's kind of the earliest constitution or some sort of law from the West Asia. So at that time, um, there were standard requirements for a set of surgery and compensation for patients after surgery failure. However, because of how early it was, it's difficult for us to know what the surgery was like at that time, like in detail. By the Middle Ages, humans had begun to try surgery, and the three most common operations were hemorrhoids, cesarean section, and urinary catheter surgery. The first one, uh, is that like hemorrhoids. It's okay if you don't understand this word. You can simply understand like some swollen bags that make your butt painful. There are swollen veins in your lower rectum. Internal hemorrhoids are usually painless, but tend to bleed. External hemorrhoids may cause pain. And cesarean section, it is a surgical procedure in which a baby is born through the cut made in the mother's abdominal wall and uterus. So it is also very popular now. You simply simply cut the mother's stomach and you take out the babies from the mother's stomach. Yeah, and that is called Caesarea section. And the third is urinary catheter, a latex polyurethane. So you can simply understand these things as chemicals or tools. They are known as a urinary catheter. They're inserted into the bladder through the urethra, and catheterizations allows urine to drain from the bladder for collection. Uh, so this is for those who have difficulty like with peeing, you know. Um, so if you find medieval medical interesting, we'll continue this discussion next week.
So let's talk about art and architecture. Starting with the history and development of Gothic architecture, it was divided into three phases, starting with the early Gothic. It is the style of architecture that appeared in northern France, Normandy, and England between about 1130 and the mid-13th century. And then to the High Gothic, which lasted from 12,000 to 80. It is the second phase of style of Gothic building design, which was known as the Rayonnant Gothic architecture, which means decorated Gothic. Here are a few of the characteristics. First, new types of geometrical decoration, which grew increasingly elaborate over time. The decorative features include pinnacles, moldings, and window tracery, and the most characteristic feature is the huge circular rose window adorning the west facades of many churches, such as the Strasbourg Cathedral. Second, architects concentrated on enhancing the look and feel of the building rather than on structural improvements, such as the ribbed vault and the flying buttress. Third, the church slimming down of the interior vertical supports. And then it comes to the late Gothic. It is the last style of Gothic architectural design. It was known as flamboyant Gothic architecture, which means perpendicular style. Here are some of its characteristics. Widespread use of a flame-like S-shaped curve in stone window tracery, and walls were transformed into one continuous expanse of glass, supported by skeletral uprights and traceries. This is the difference between Romanesque architecture and Gothic. The Gothic architecture is a European style of architecture which derives from French. The style evolves from Romanesque architectures, which shares a lot of similarity, but is also distinctive from each other. Gothic architecture had both abandoned and adapted Romanesque elements to produce its own style. Gothic architecture was marked by exaggerated arcs, increased vaulting, and enlarged windows. But at the same time, it also abandoned several characteristics of the Romanesque architecture, such as massive columns. Gothic instead used slender columns, which is one slender columns. One key feature of Romanesque architecture is thick walls, but instead Gothic used buttress for support. These stone structures allowed architects to create sky-high cathedrals and churches that evoked ethereality and reached toward the heaves. Overall, architectures with Gothic style can be found in churches, cathedrals, and other similar buildings in Europe and beyond. Here are the 5 most integral characteristics of Gothic architecture. So let's start with the large stained glass windows. They were initially in Gothic cathedrals, and there were 2 types and it was divided into 2 types. The tall and arched lancet windows or round rose windows, which are larger than those found in other types of churches and guarantee the broadening of more light. The pointed arcs, it is the most fundamental element of the Gothic architecture. It was found and borrowed from Islamic architecture. Curving side meet at a relatively sharp angle at the top of the church. And the tall and thin pointed arc, it was actually sturdy. It could distribute the force of bulky walls and heavy ceilings, which offer more support than the formerly used pillars. These arcs highlighted each cathedral's height by pointing towards the sky and accommodating a vaulting in a similar shape. The pointed arcs also influence other Gothic designs, like the vaulted ceilings. Ribbed vaulting. Ribbed vault is a skeleton of arcs or ribs on which masonry, which is the building of structures from individual units, can be laid to form a ceiling or roof. This kind of vaulting was used as a new method of structural support when higher ceilings and taller windows was incorporated, which means it was added into the church design. The vaults could be constructed in different sizes and shapes. However, the ribbed vault involves the use of the barrel vault, which is a semicircular in cross section, and it is capable of spanning large distances in railways, churches, and cathedrals in order to support the rounded roof by the stone ribs. These vaulted ceilings use pointed arc technology to spread and distribute the weight and force from the upper floors, and they allowed ceilings to be taller than they were before, providing an impression of height and elegance. The barrel vaults also offer increased support for sky-high buildings. Flying buttress. It is the projecting stone structures. It was an external characteristics, which also plays a critical structural support and acted as the support to the building structure by transferring the force to the ground, such as spreading the tall wall's weight, redistributing the weight of the heavy roof to a lower one, more solid level. It eliminated the need for solid and thick walls. Ornate decorations. These decorations were shown in the presence of ornate decorative elements. Gargoyles were one of the critical characteristics of Gothic architecture. They are monstrous-like creatures and grotesque that sat along the roof and battlements of Gothic castles and buildings. They have two purposes. One was to drain offering water off the roof, gushing through their mouth and plummeting to the ground. Another purpose was to strike fear in the peasants and scare them into the Gothic cathedral or church. There are also other ornate decorations such as the sculptural moldings, statues of saints and historical figure, pinnacles, and spires. Here is a picture of the characteristics of Gothic architecture. So from the first one, you can see that it is a large stained glass window, which is the lessened windows we've talked about. And the second one is the rounded rose windows, which was founded in Chartres Cathedral. The second one is the pointed arch, also comes from Chartres Cathedral. And the fourth one, it is ribbed vault. And here's the flying buttress of Notre Dame Cathedral and gargoyles from the Notre Dame.
Yep, this is the end of history for today. Thank you for coming. And next up is science.
Yeah, science. Woo! Hold on, give me 1 second. All right, thank you everyone for coming. This is physics week 4, math and weight. I know it was a lot of information to intake from pop culture and history. So now we're gonna do a little less words, more, numbers, kind of, almost concepts. So last time we went over vectors and scalars, and today we're gonna be going over mass and weight. So what is mass? So mass is a measurement of how much matter is in an object, and mass is a combination of the total number of atoms and density of the atoms. and basically whatever type of atoms is inside of an object. And it's easily confused with weight since we use it interchangeably in daily life, but we'll get to that later. Next slide. Want to go, Gavin?
Yeah, so mass is usually measured in kilograms. There can be different types of mass, such as inertial mass or gravitational mass. On the right, you can see the definitions for both of the masses. So inertial mass is basically determined by how much an object resists acceleration. And then gravitational mass is, let's say, a measurement of how much gravity an object exerts on another object. So let's say if you push like two objects under the same conditions with the same amount of force, the object will have a lower mass and will basically accelerate faster. And then gravitational mass is like, basically objects that exert on each other. It can also be a measurement of how much gravity an object experiences from another object. So let's say when scientists want to express mass in terms of like atoms and molecules, they use the atomic mass unit, which is basically abbreviated as U. As one fun fact, one atomic mass unit is equal to 1/12 of the mass of carbon-12.
Mm-hmm. So what is the difference between mass and weight? So like I said earlier, a lot of times we use mass and weight interchangeably, but we can't do that in physics because they usually mean different things. So weight is a measure of the force of gravity on an object, and the mass of an object will never change, but the weight of an item can change based on its location. So when I said interchangeably, by the way, it means like being able to substitute one word for another. Yeah, I'll just go to the next slide.
So now moving on, so what's the difference between mass and weight? We've been throwing these two terms around. So let's say, for example, you weigh like 100 pounds on Earth, but in outer space, you might be weightless because you're just floating around in like the vacuum space, right? You have no weight. But however, you'll always have the same mass on Earth as you have in outer space. You can see on the picture on the left, like it basically demonstrates what I say. So let's say your weight is around 560 newtons, right? But on the moon, your weight is 90 newtons because of gravity changes from the Earth and the moon. They're different. But however, your mass is always the same, like 56 kilograms.
So next is measuring weight. So in the United States, we usually measure weight in pounds, but in physics, when we are describing weight as a force, we are generally using newtons, which is abbreviated as an N. And I think I went over this before, I'm not sure. Yes, yeah, just to review, mass is calculated using kilograms, which I think is the metric unit, which I think in Nepal we use the same thing. And we multiply that by whatever is the force of gravity on that planet. So on Earth, it's 9.8. Wait, was that acceleration? I can't remember, sorry, my bad. Well, you multiply that by your mass and you get your weight in newtons. So say that you see this guy right here, he has a mass of 120 kilograms on Earth, and you multiply that by the planet's fourth of Earth, which is 9.8 meters per second, which they rounded to 10. And so we get their weight, which is 1,200 newtons. And so you can see that on the moon, although this little astronaut's mass did not change at all, because of the different pressure that is weighing down on them on the moon compared to the Earth, they have a different weight.
All right, so how do we calculate from mass to weight or weight to mass? So since gravity is fairly consistent on Earth, okay, so weight will also be consistent as well. This allows us to use like a very simple formula to convert interchangeably weight into mass or mass into weight. So if you look on the right, you'll see two equations. One's F equals ma, that's Newton's second law. That's basically calculating acceleration on an object. Okay, so let's say like if an object is like moving like at some acceleration and you multiply by its mass, that's like the force that's being applied on. If you want to basically calculate how much an object weighs, you do W equals mg, which is basically mass times gravity. So gravity is always a constant. So what a constant is it's a number that's always the same. In this case, it's gravity. And we determine gravity to be 9.8 meters per second squared. And then you multiply it by any mass to find the weight.
Yep. Okay, so now we have an example problem. What is the weight of a 50 kilogram mass object on Earth? If you want to type an answer in the chat, that would be really lovely. So I'll give you guys 30 seconds. I'll remind you guys the formula if you have forgot. To find the weight, we multiply the mass of an object by the gravitational force on a planet. So on Earth, it would be 9.8 meters per second, or you could round it to 10. Any guesses? All right, so I'll just get to it. So the weight is, as I said, 50 kilograms times 9.8 meters per second squared. And that comes out to around 490 newtons.
Okay, we have another problem. Is mass the same as size? If you click again, but it's okay. The answer is there. Nope. Mass is different from size or volume. You can tell, and the balloon, the gold, cylinder, it's all different. This is because the type of atoms or molecules as well as their density helps to determine the mass. For example, a balloon filled with helium will have much less mass than a similar size item made of gold. So from a logical standpoint, balloons are super light because they're filled with, they're basically lighter in mass. And compared to gold is super heavy. So they have different masses.
Okay, so next is the law of conservation of mass, which if you've taken a science class before, I'm sure you've heard of it, and it will continue to be useful if you continue to take physics in high school. Or if you physics, it'll be very, very useful. So the law of conservation of mass states that the mass of a closed system must remain constant over time. So if that's too complicated to understand right now, it basically means that in this universe, matter can neither be created nor destroyed. And I guess that just basically means that, you're made up of atoms and particles and molecules, and you might die, a plant might die, but those atoms will eventually just return to the ground. It becomes something else. Basically, nothing can be really created or destroyed.
We have some fun facts here. Mass actually comes from a Greek word called massa, which means lump of dough. Scientists estimate that the total mass of the universe is between 1,052 kilograms and 1,053 kilograms. So that is, relatively light. 1,000 kilograms is equal to a metric ton. And the gravity of Earth can vary as much as 0.5% depending on where you are on Earth. So let's say if you stand in Nepal or you stand in San Jose, that's where we are. Gravity actually might vary just by a little bit.
Yep. Okay, and so we have a little video for you guys.
Welcome to Moo Math and Science and Mass.
Yes.
What do you mean by lump of dough?
A lump of dough. Sorry, let me go back. Have you ever made bread before using yeast, flour? Hold on, I can't get out. Or Gavin, do you want to answer her?
A lump of dough is basically like, imagine like, do you know a ball of paper? Imagine like a lot of paper scrunched together into a ball. So it's basically how you call like a unit of something. So if I say a ball of paper, imagine a lot of paper that you crumple all the paper, you fold all the paper into a small ball. Right. The same thing goes for dough. A lump of dough is like a lot of like, if you made like chocolate chip cookie dough, if you made like noodle dough, right? If you roll it into like a lot of small balls or a big ball, then that's called a lump. Does it make sense? Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Welcome to Moo Moo Math, Science and Mass versus Weight. Isn't mass and weight the same thing? Not really. The mass of an object is the amount of matter an object contains, while weight is the force of the gravitational attraction the object feels towards another object like the Earth's center. Mass is measured by using a balance, comparing a known amount of matter to an unknown amount of matter. Weight is measured on a scale. The mass of an object doesn't change when an object's location changes. Weight, on the other hand, changes with location. The mass of an object is a measure of the amount of matter in it, or in other words, the amount of stuff it contains. The SI unit for mass is the kilogram. The kilogram was originally defined in 1795 as the amount of mass of 1 liter of water. It has since changed. If you use the imperial system, the unit for mass is the slug. Yes, the slug, which has a mass of 32 pounds. So if you weigh 161 pounds on Earth, your mass is 5 slugs. Yes, slugs. Weight is a measure of the force that gravity is pulling on the object. Gravity is a force, and therefore weight technically should be measured in newtons. A newton is equal to the acceleration of 1 kilogram, 1 meter per second squared. For an example, let's take an object with a mass of 1 kilogram. It has a weight of about 9.8 newtons on the surface of the Earth. But here's where it may get a little confusing. There are other units that are used to describe weight that sound like mass. The imperial system uses the pound to measure weight, and it's defined in terms of the kilogram as exactly 0.45359237 kilograms. Your weight can change based on the gravitational pull. Your weight varies on the moon and other planets, but your mass remains the same. If a cube has a mass of 90.91 kilograms and a weight of 200 pounds on Earth, it will weigh 32 pounds on the moon, but still has a mass of 90.91 kilograms. On Mars, the cube would weigh 76 pounds, but it still has the same mass of 90.91 kilograms. On Jupiter, the cube weighs 468 pounds, but still has the same mass of 90.91 kilograms. So in conclusion, mass is a measure of how much matter something contains, which equals the number of atoms in it. Weight is a measure of how strongly gravity pulls on something. The SI unit for mass is kilograms. The SI unit for weight is the newton. For an example, an object with a mass of 1 kilogram has a weight of about 9.8 newtons on the surface of the Earth and about 1/6 as much on the moon. Thanks for watching, and Moo Moo Math uploads a new math and science video every day. Please subscribe and share. Welcome to
All right, great.
Welcome to Moo Moo Math and Science and Math.
Sorry, what?
Why our weight is loses in the morning?
Why we do what in the morning? Sorry. I
Why
think you're on. I think her audio is breaking up. Does anyone know what she just said?
No, Ashley, could you type that in the chat or speak again?
Yeah. So once again, we can review basically weight. Weight is basically how much like a force pushes it down on the object if you do it relative to the Earth. So let's say if I have, let's say, a 10 kilogram car. Okay, I don't know if that's light or heavy. You multiply it by the gravity, which is 9.8, and then that's how much the weight you have. If 10 times 9.8 is 98, then you get 98 newtons. And that's how much force. Imagine 98 newtons pushing down on you on the Earth. And that's how much, that is basically what is weight.
Did that answer your question, Anshu?
Why our weight is used in the moon?
She's
Okay.
asking about the moon stuff. You want to do that?
Wait, what about the moon? Did she say?
Oh, why we could see moon in the morning?
I think that's based on how have you learned about how planets rotate around each other? The moon isn't really a planet per se, but it's like another object that rotates around the Earth as the Earth rotates around the sun. So, I'm really bad at phrasing things. I think Gavin would be better at this. But depending, or like there isn't a really set rotation so that the moon would show up to where you see it in the morning or in the afternoon or at night. So you could technically see the moon at any point, really.
Yeah, that's because like moonrise and moonset basically changes throughout the month. Okay, so like during like a full moon cycle, right? The moon like keeps setting later every day. So like you can like technically wake up during lunch and you can still see the moon because the moon is like setting later and later each day as we go through like a full moon cycle. So do you know what a moon cycle is? Okay, I can explain. So a moon cycle is basically like imagine like a circle, right? And then the moon has like a C shape. Like no, like because the sun or like the earth, I don't know which one, it covers the moon or no, I don't know, somewhere or another. It gets covered, right? Something gets covered, and then you just see an outline of the moon, right? And then you'll see like a C shape. And over like a course of a month, the shadow uh the shadow decreases or increases. So you can see like a full moon as the month ends. Okay, and then once again, because the moon is like setting later every day, every other day, they basically see the moon like I don't know at lunch or like in the morning. I guess we can go back to our previous slide. Can you go back to slide 5, please? Yeah. So what we talked about the moon was about how much you weigh. So once again, imagine like your mass. Everyone has their own mass. So if you weigh, no, you don't weigh, but like your mass is determined, let's say 56 kilograms. Okay. Now, if you go on Earth or you go on the moon, your weight difference, your weight basically changes because gravity, there is like less gravity on the moon compared to the Earth. So gravity is like how much a force is pushing down on you. Imagine that's why you're like standing on the ground. You're not like floating. Like imagine if you're on the moon, if you jump, you'll jump super high because there's less gravity that's pushing on you. Okay. So in this case, you would basically weigh 560 newtons on Earth because there's a lot of gravity. It's 9.8. It's pushing you down really hard. But on the moon, you don't have that much of gravity pushing down on you. So you can jump super high. And that's why you only weigh around 90 newtons.
Yeah, and also the reason, oh, sorry, are you going to say something?
Oh, no, go ahead.
Yeah, like the reason you see moon is because it's not like, it didn't have the light itself. It's like the light reflected from the sun. So the brightness of the sun, like
reflect to the moon, and then we see that light. So like during the day, sometimes like there's enough sunlight that made us see that. So it's not like the moon is not there like during day and like become like visible again during night. It's like always there rotating around the earth. So like at some point that like the reflection is bright enough, so we got to see those. And like the moon phase Gavin talked before, like how it's like sometimes become like circle, sometimes become like like the C shape. So you can also like search up the picture of that, and that's really cool.
I think we're done, but unless you have one more slide to show the meme or not, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is our
Welcome.
no. Okay, this is our dandy meme. No, I weigh 70 kilograms. Now I weigh 686.5.
So if you don't know what a meme is wait, go back. Yeah. A meme is basically like how to explain it.
A funny cartoon that you can instantly relate to.
Yeah. It's basically like a cultural check, basically. I don't know if that means anything, but in this picture, it basically says I weigh 70 kilograms, but if you convert it to weight, you just multiply 70 by 9.5. Oh, sorry, 9.8, and you get 686 newtons.
Yeah.
It's just a more fancier way of saying how much you weigh.
Yep, look at that fancy tux, man. And these are our sources for today's lesson. Thank you for coming.
Yeah. Any more questions? Okay,
No.
thoughts, concerns? Is it too hard, too easy? Did you learn something today? Did you learn anything new, special, anything? All right, cool.
I guess we'll just wrap up for today. Thank you for coming, everyone. Hope to see y'all next week as well, or in 2 weeks as well.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.